button, it should have started.
Oh, weird. Yeah, because usually you
It's
see it on the
recording.
top bar and I don't see it.
It
Oh,
says someone
alright.
started recording on the screen.
Perfect.
Okay, awesome. Great, thank you. The regular meeting of the Minneapolis Civil Rights Commission will now begin. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mackenzie May. I'm the chair of the Civil Rights Commission, and I'm going to call this meeting for August 16th, 2021 to order. 2021. I want to welcome everyone joining us this evening. As we begin, I will note for the record that this meeting has remote participation by members of the Commission and city staff as authorized under statute section 13D.021 due to the declared local public health emergency. The city will be recording and posting the meeting to the city's website and YouTube channel as a means of increasing public access and transparency. This meeting is public and subject to the Minnesota open meeting law. So at this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll so we can verify we have a quorum for this meeting.
Hello, everyone. Okay, I will start with Commissioner Crowder. Commissioner Crowder. Okay. Commissioner May.
Yes, present.
Commissioner Cobia.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Rance.
Here.
Commissioner Rance. Oh, thank you. Commissioner Herkman. Commissioner Herkman.
Here.
Oh, you're here. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Commissioner Shepard. Commissioner Shepard. Okay, I'll mark her as absent. Okay. Commissioner Gold. Commissioner Gold.
Commissioner Gold will not be with us this evening.
Thank you. Commissioner Fine.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Davis. Okay, I'll mark him as absent as well. Commissioner Swift.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Bergquist.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Hartz. Commissioner Hartz.
Commissioner Hartz won't be with us. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you. Commissioner Lord.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Farrar.
Here.
Commissioner Devenish.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Stigliani.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Falk. Commissioner Falk. I'm going to mark her as absent. And then Commissioner Shoemake.
Here.
Thank you. So that makes 12 commissioners present and 6 absent. So I do believe we have quorum.
Yes, let the record reflect we do have quorum. Thank you, Matthew. Commissioners, the agenda for today's meeting is before us. May I please have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you.
Mr. Devenish, second that motion.
Thanks, Commissioner Devenish. We have a proper motion before us. Is there any discussion before the clerk calls the roll?
Yeah, this is Commissioner Cobia. I think we left off public comment on here, so I moved to add it after unfinished business.
Yeah, that's acceptable.
I have one item for the agenda as well. This is Commissioner Farrar. At the last meeting, I asked for an update on the resolution that we'd had back in May, that as a commission and executive committee, we should engage with the Department of Justice inquiry into civil rights in our city. And I don't see anything under unfinished business, and I didn't see that in the minutes from the last meeting either. So I wanted to check, are we going to get an update today, and what is the And where is that supposed to be reflected in either the minutes or the agenda?
Thanks, Commissioner Farrar. It is not in the listed under unfinished business. You are correct. There has not been any movement around this. I think that we could probably have a motion to possibly move this to a subcommittee. I think that we could do some discussion around this to see what others think. And if there's any suggestions that you have, Commissioner Farrar, on ways that we can move forward as a commission.
And we do have some hand raised in the chat. We have Commissioner Stignati and Commissioner Berquist.
Thank you, Commissioner Devenish.
Who would you like first?
Stignani. Yes, Stignani, thank you.
So the Department of Justice is actually circulating flyers for public commentary right now in Minneapolis. I have not received one as a resident yet, but I've seen copies of it posted online. So we may want to, take that opportunity to reach out directly, and we can talk in the executive committee meeting about, other ways to engage with this as well down the road here. But there's a moment that we have, the opportunity we have right now for the DOJ is actually soliciting interaction for the community as a whole.
That's great.
I think the original resolution back in May was that we should engage formally as a Civil Rights Commission, and that the executive committee would actually follow through having a direct contact with some person at the DOJ. So while I appreciate that's a good idea as members of the public, but that doesn't really address the issue of whether or not the Civil Rights Commission should engage with the DOJ.
Yes. You mentioned a resolution. Can you just clarify for 1 second?
I think back in May, at the May meeting, we actually resolved as a group, or there was a resolution passed that we should engage with the DOJ's inquiry on a formal basis.
Mm-hmm.
And then, a couple of meetings went by and we didn't hear anything, and that's why I mentioned something at the last meeting.
Commissioner Berquist, you also have your hand up?
Yeah, on an unrelated item, but I would support adding this topic to unfinished business so that we can have something to try to get things moving. But my question I had was relating to item 5 in the agenda, which is commission training session. And my question is that training session, is it intended that will happen today during today's meeting? And if so, I have concerns about time allocation and all of that. And I would suggest that the training itself happen at another time, because I think it's really difficult to wedge everything in, and I don't want us to be rushed with the training.
Thank you. Kayla, can you provide some clarification on that for me?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So this is Kayla from the department. The training is not happening today. That is a point of clarification for us, just to provide the date that the training will take place, date and time.
Thanks for that clarification. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Commissioner Berquist.
Thanks.
So do we have a, should we call the roll on the motion with those amended edits to add the Department of Justice inquiry to the unfinished business, as well as the first comment that I did miss exactly what that edit was? Is that Commissioner Copia?
It was adding the public comment.
Oh, the public comment. Yep, that's circulating public comment. Yep. I know that was. Thank you. So with no further discussion, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
And if Stignati and Commissioner Stignati and Commissioner Berquist, if you could lower your hands so that we know that your concerns have been addressed. Thank you.
I will start with, oh, sorry. I'll start with Commissioner May.
Yes.
Commissioner Kobia,
Yes.
Commissioner Rance, Commissioner
Yes.
Rance. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Herkman,
Yes.
Commissioner Fine,
Yes.
Commissioner Swift,
Yes.
Commissioner Bergquist,
Yes.
Commissioner Lord.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Farrar,
Yes.
Commissioner Devenish,
Yes.
Commissioner Sigiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Sigiani.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Folk
Yes.
and Commissioner Shoemake.
Yes.
Okay, that is 13 yeses.
That motion passes and the agenda is adopted. Next is the acceptance of minutes from the July 19th meeting. May I please have a motion to accept these minutes?
Giuliani so moves.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Should make seconds.
Okay, thanks. We have a proper motion before us. Is there any discussion before the clerk calls the roll? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion.
Again, with Commissioner May,
Yes, thanks.
Commissioner Kobia,
Yes.
Commissioner Rance,
Yes.
Commissioner Herkman,
Yes.
Commissioner Fine.
Yes.
Okay. I think Commissioner Davis just joined. Commissioner Davis, are you with us?
I am. I apologize for being late. My iPad doesn't seem to be connecting, so then I had to jump back to my phone. So I apologize for being late.
Okay. And would you like to vote on this, or would you want to abstain since you just got in?
No, I vote yes for it. It all looks great.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Swift.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Bergquist.
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Lord.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Farrar.
Yes.
Commissioner Devenish.
Yes.
Commissioner Sigiani.
Yes.
Commissioner Sigiani. Oh, thank you. Yeah, Commissioner Falk.
Yes.
Thank you. And Commissioner Shoemake.
Yes.
Commissioner Shoemake. Oh, thank you. Okay, and that is 14 yeses. Oh, Commissioner May, I think you are on mute.
You are correct. Thank you, Matthew. That motion passes and the minutes are accepted as presented. So we'll move to item 4 on the agenda, which is a presentation on the gun violence proclamation to the City Council by Commissioner Devenish. And I will now invite Commissioner Devenish to give that presentation.
Thank you, Chair May, and thank you for presenting on August 12th with Councilmember Cunningham in regards to the Stop the Gun Violence Proclamation and Stop the Gun Violence Accountability Task Force. There is a link available for those who are interested, which I can post into the chat so that you can listen and watch the recording. I apologize because on my end, was having technical difficulties and unable to use my camera. However, you can hear our discussion and it is quite informative, and I'm excited about the next steps, which I'm open to, or we are open to feedback in terms of our next steps for the Stop the Gun Violence Accountability Task Force. I got a message from Councilmember Cunningham stating that we did a good job in our presentation, so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the next steps. I, if possible, would like to work with NAACP if possible, and any community members on this cause. So once again, thank you to everyone. Chair May, especially Chair Gold, thank you so much for your ongoing support and taking the time out of your busy schedule to attend to the meeting and participate. I don't know if we should open up the floor to discussion on any questions that commissioners may have at this time. And once again, I will copy the link to the meeting that was on the 12th so that commissioners and city members can view it at their leisure.
Thanks, Cindy, Commissioner Devenish. I was gonna just add that, some of the next steps that we talked about were, currently we're in the process of reaching out to the Office of Violence Prevention and the Minneapolis Police Department to follow up and have some meetings regarding some of the work that's currently being done around gun violence. There are some initiatives that are helping fund local organizations and like the gun violence, there's a City of Minneapolis gun violence or Office of Prevention, which is doing, they have a steering committee who hasn't met since I think February 2020, during the COVID beginning. So, really trying to light a fire under them to get that steering committee back re-engaged and how do we work together to create a task force that does include a lot of these community organizations that are already being funded and being, recognized for the work that they're doing in our community. But thank you, Commissioner Devenish, for that presentation. Are there any other questions or from commissioners?
I don't see any hands raised and no one's chiming in.
There was a phone number on the line that was lighting up, but I will seeing no further questions or hands up, I will direct the clerk to receive and file that report, please.
And Mackenzie, just for those who are on the phone, do they have to press *7 or something like that to be heard? Because maybe they don't know that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I think it's *6.
Okay.
Yeah, it is *6.
So for the phone number ending in 24, I don't know if that's one of our commissioners, but *6 to unmute. But again, thank you. I will move to item 5 on the agenda, which is an update regarding Cassidy Gardner's, the Equity Division Director of the Minneapolis Civil Rights Department. Just an update about the upcoming training session.
Yes, I'm happy to provide that. This will be very short. I just wanted to share that we've been going back and forth, Chair May and I and Cassidy, and we have picked a date and time for that hopefully most people can attend. So it is going to be Thursday, September 23rd from 6 to 8 p.m. That's going to be the first of likely 2 sessions, and the second session has not been scheduled yet. So it'll be 2 2-hour sessions starting with that one. Is there any more information, Commissioner May, you wanted me to provide? I think that's the only update I really have.
Yeah, that was really the major update. I do want to urge all of our commissioners to make time in your schedule to attend this. It is very important as we are doing this work on the Civil Rights Commission and really centering a racial equity lens moving forward with some fire being lit by the City of Minneapolis with some of their racial equity tools and trainings. And so we're going to utilize that and for our benefit for this commission and take advantage of these trainings that they will offer and using the resources and being able to educate ourselves so that we can advance this work in the most equitable manner that we can. So thank you, everyone. Again, that is on Thursday, September 23rd from 6 to 8 p.m.
And will the link be sent soon or?
Yeah, so following our announcement, everybody will get an invite to the meeting via Gmail, or not Gmail, mine's Gmail, via
Teams,
email. Yeah. Thanks, Commissioner Devenish. Are there any other questions about that? Seeing none, we'll move to item 6. And item 6 on the agenda, we'll be hearing from Commissioner Lord and regarding some of the work we'll be doing in September and having the Urban Institute present on some of their research about home ownership in Minneapolis. So thank you, Commissioner Lord.
Great. Thank you so much, Chair May. The category that this falls into, I guess, is a tease. This is really a tease for September. I wanted to share that we are going to have a senior researcher from the Urban Institute, Yona Freemark. I apologize, I may have slaughtered his first name. It's Yonah. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. But he was a lead researcher on a study that the Urban Institute just recently completed called Who Owns the Twin Cities? An analysis of racialized home ownership trends in Hennepin and Ramsey counties. And in this report, it's really very detailed documentation of the precipitous decline of Black home ownership in the Twin Cities, and in Minneapolis, of course, is part of that. It not only does a great job of characterizing it and kind of quantifying exactly what that is, but also identifying some of the root causes and drivers. Included in the agenda is a link to the Urban Institute, and I really wanted to exhort everyone on the commission to visit that link. That you will find there. One is you will find the full report that brings to life everything I just mentioned. You'll also find a link to a panel discussion that the Urban Institute hosted, and in it they brought together experts on policy from across some different kind of disciplines to provide some points of view about how this inequity and this trend could be addressed. So I really want to encourage everybody to take a look at those materials in advance of our meeting in September. At that meeting, Mr. Freemark will be sharing some highlights of the report. And I will also be bringing forward a letter that I would like to get input on and feedback on, to ultimately be sent to some of the corporate entities that are swooping into the Twin Cities and gobbling up homeownership opportunities at the expense of many of our Black brothers and sisters in the community. So please take a look at some of those materials in advance. I think you'll be able to get a lot more out of Mr. Freemark's presentation and the conversation that we're going to have in September. So any questions, comments? Ken, or excuse me, Commissioner Rance?
Thank you, Commissioner Lord. I had a question. Once we read this study and have the presentation in September, are we also thinking about recommendations we may be making to the city of Minneapolis regarding zoning and single family use, and also being able to capitalize on some of the new changes with the city of Minneapolis, where multiple units are now being able to be built in the city, and make recommendations and take a position on this to the mayor and the city council in regards to equity for not only just Black people, but persons of color and lower income residents in the city of Minneapolis. Is that kind of where you see this heading?
I'm really hoping we can have a discussion and identify a number of ideas or initiatives that we might be interested in pursuing or further understanding. That in particular is why I really encourage you to watch the video of the panel discussion, because the report doesn't have a lot of solutions, whereas the panel discussion, the experts that they brought in, many of them raise a lot of, I think, really interesting ideas. Some of those ideas are things that are already being considered by the city council, like kind of like more rent control, but others are things like a land trust, for example, which I think sounds like a really interesting idea. And then I'm going to be bringing forward a particular idea around putting pressure on corporations. I'm not a policy person. I come from the world of corporations, so that's something I know and and kind of feel like I understand. But I'm hopeful we can bring to bear all the talents of the different commissioners and their expertise to come up with some action items that we would want to pursue. Did that answer your question, Commissioner?
Yeah,
Vance?
I was just looking. I was just looking at one. Is this a civil rights issue? Yes, I do believe that it is. And then what action can we take as a commission in regards to rectifying some of these issues with the city and the different whether it's zoning and or maybe it could be a potential amendment to our city charter. So I think that bringing these issues to light is excellent, but I think the execution and working towards viable resolutions and remedies to these ills is something that I think that we have the ability and wherewithal to do. And so that's what really excites me about what you've brought forward in really trying to make some impactful change on situations that we know are very real and self-evident.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
Excellent.
Any other comments or questions I can address before turning this back over to the chair? Okay, great. Please read it. Please take a look at the video in advance. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lord. So I will direct the clerk to receive and file that report, please. Item 7 on the agenda is the African American Family Preservation Act by Commissioner Rance, Hartz, and Devenish. An update for that. It does say I will ask Hartz to give a presentation, but I know that he's not here tonight, so did want to give Commissioner Devenish and Commissioner Rance an opportunity to provide an update.
We submitted our resolution. Was that sent in? Okay. I don't know if you could put it in the chat or share the screen. I don't know how you guys want to do it. I hope everyone had a chance to review it. Think so. Commissioner Rance, Commissioner Hartz, and I, and Ms. Houston, Khalees Houston, helped put together this resolution. Is there any questions about the resolution that we put together? No.
This is Commissioner Lord. Sorry, should have raised my hand. I just wanted to comment that I thought you did a great job of documenting the disparate kind of situation and outcomes. I think that was really helpful.
Thank you, Commissioner Lord. Thank you. And that's from Ms. Houston, who researched this. Ms. Houston, are you on the line?
I am.
Okay, thank you for joining us today. It's always a pleasure. Is there any other questions from commissioners, or can we vote on this resolution?
I move that we take a vote on the resolution. This is
Yes,
Commissioner
sir.
Rance.
Thank you, sir. I second that motion.
Okay, can we have, Matthew, can you call the roll?
Of course. Commissioner May,
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Cobia, Commissioner Cobia,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Rance,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Herkman,
Yes.
thanks. Commissioner Fine,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Swift,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Bergquist,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Lord,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Farrar,
No.
thank you. Commissioner Devenish,
Yes.
Commissioner Devenish,
Yes, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
did you repeat that? Sorry, I'm having issues hearing you.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you now. Thank you. Commissioner Sigiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Fold,
Yes.
Commissioner Shoemake.
Yes.
Okay, that's 13 yeses and 1 no.
Thank you, Matthew. Hearing, with that, the motion has passed. And then we will also, I will ask you to receive and file that report as well, Matthew. Under unfinished business, item 8 on the agenda is the proposed Rule 601 change by Commissioner Fine. I now invite Commissioner Fine to give that presentation, please.
Okay. Okay, standard and conduct approved the proposed change that was just, I think it was earlier this month. And we made a couple of changes to the last one. I think there were suggestions by Commissioner Farrar, and I think we accommodated both the changes that he requested. One of them was specifically to make sure it was clear that it changes the reporting of absences from the department to the commission secretary. And we further discussed that the handbook form of notice was sufficient. We didn't need to make any changes on that. So on behalf of the committee, I would move to adopt the Rule 601 proposed change, which was copied with the meeting notice today. And I would also note that the attorney, Andrea Neff, has reviewed it, and I believe that it was acceptable to her. So I would make that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Fine. Do we have a second?
Yes, this is Commissioner Devenish. I second the motion.
Thanks, Commissioner Devenish. Do we have any discussion before we have the clerk call the roll?
This is more a question. This is Commissioner Folk. Just wondering if we currently have a secretary for this commission since our previous one just left.
Yeah, Commissioner, I'm sorry, who are you referring to? Commissioner,
This is
yeah,
Commissioner
we have,
Copia.
yeah. Commissioner Kobe has been our secretary for
Okay.
last few months.
Okay. Yeah. Just wanted to clarify that's been official. I guess
Yeah.
I just wasn't clear if he was permanently the secretary, if it was interim, or what the situation was. So if we could note that, I don't know if we need to note that anywhere, but just to make that clear.
Yeah, I believe we did do a commission vote on it, but we can make that clear, especially make sure that the website is updated as well. If that has it on there.
Yeah, I don't know I don't believe we voted on it as a commission, just because I had asked Commissioner the chair of my committee, Commissioner Gold, If because I had to miss a meeting for one
Yeah.
of our subcommittee meetings, who the secretary was, and she wasn't.
Mhm.
She was still under the impression we didn't have an official secretary. So I just don't think
Okay.
it's been clear that
Yeah, I
we
can
do have a
clarify.
secretary.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
clarify that for you. I'm not exactly sure which meeting that we did, but we did do a vote because we had Commissioner Davis and Commissioner Cobia both nominated, and we did do a commission vote for, between the two of them. If someone could confirm the date, maybe we could have Commissioner Folk be able to check that in LIMS, but that was a few months ago. Thank you. Any other? Oh, Commissioner Farrar, we have your hand up.
Thank you. I was just going to say that I got a copy of this before the meeting as well, like we all did, and I can confirm that this addresses the issues that I raised the last time around, which was the black hole that I fell into last year, where we spent all that time in our first meeting trying to resolve what was a substantive issue because the process was kind of broken. And this will fix the process because it has a default in there that works in favour of all of us who would expect to get a notification and think if we don't get one, then everything is okay. So well done to the people who drafted this. Thank you.
Commissioner Lord.
Thank you. It does seem like there is a conflict embedded in the change. If you look at the 601.2 B, a commissioner may contact the chair or vice chair at any time to request that the executive committee excuse an absence, and then go down to the reason to dismiss someone is lack of timely notification. Like, that conflicts, because if you can reach out at any time, you could in theory reach out like at the time you're being dismissed, and that would still be cool, but it's inherently not timely. It just it seems like there's a inherent conflict in this.
Commissioner Lord, I appreciate you for bringing that concern. I do share the same concern, being that I am experiencing the same thing prior to this meeting, and I'm like, that's timely, right? But it wasn't asked to be excused, which is stated in 602B, so, or 601B, yeah, like you're saying, may contact at any time, so.
And just so you know, Chair May, we still have David Farrar. Your hand is, Commissioner Farrar, your hand is still up.
Yeah, do we have any comment to, can we address Commissioner Lord's comment first?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Is that possible? Or if there was any thoughts to that as well? And Commissioner Bergquist here.
Yeah, I can respond to Commissioner Lord's concern. So I think the intent is to make it clear that a commissioner can request the absence be excused at any time, but it won't be excused unless that notice is timely. And the timeliness it would vary based on the circumstances. Like if you were marked absent and didn't know that you were absent because you were there and then you requested that it be excused, like that's going to be timely because as soon as you knew, you made that request. But it's just timeliness is going to vary based on the circumstances, but we want to make sure that they can make that request at any time, and it's not up to the individual commissioner to decide whether it's timely. It's up to the executive committee or the commission as a whole to make that decision about whether when the request came in it was timely. But they can make that request basically at any time.
So can we add that to be that it be, because it is that you request it at any time to be excused within that, and then can we refer to where we already say timely manner or something?
Well, I mean, it's already going to be in the notice that the commissioner gets. Like that text says it. It's already in the policy that it like you can't just request it. You can request at any time, but the commission isn't going to handle it. We'll handle it differently depending on whether the executive committee or the commission determines that notification was timely. So, like, we don't want to stop someone from making the request because they think, oh, it's not timely. We want to encourage people to make the request and then, let it get sorted out whether it was in fact timely.
I think what I was assuming, I'm just responding to Amy. I think what I was assuming is that like there's an assumption that if you make a request, it'll be excused. Maybe we should just say like requesting a absence is not this, like, will not necessarily be requesting an absence, not the same thing as having an absence being excused, Or maybe it's something like the executive committee is not required to excuse requested absences or something like that. But I'm not a lawyer, so I'll shut up now.
I mean, I have the same question because I got a request before the meeting to excuse the absence so they're requesting to have it excused, and they're also like, it's complicated, so it just would be nice if we could have it in writing because the first thing in writing is, oh, I can request it at any time. It's not. So I think it would be nice to have it clarified in that point. It is a request, but maybe, we're all. I would love it to be as clear as possible. We've had a lot of questions about the attendance rule, so it would be nice if we could just make it. But if there's I'm wondering if there's any other concerns about language or if how others read this.
Yeah, I would say, this is Commissioner Polk. I would say I agree. I think it still leaves, just by this discussion, I think it came to two different conclusions of how I would read this policy, and just so to understand, like, I think I would assume if I was reading it that if I had submitted a request in a timely manner, it would get excused. So if that's not necessarily the case, like if there's instances where it would not be excused, like I think that would be helpful to make that clear.
Commissioner Kobia, your hand is up.
Yeah. So I've read this rule like 7,000 times now. I think I understand the concern about the reading here. I think it's pretty clear that it requires both timely notice and good cause, which is like the next 6 words after provide timely notice. I don't think that this is going to be the point of this current amendment. You'll note in B it already says at any time, and so our adding at any time in D is not really a change so much as it just emphasizes, like Commissioner Berquist said, that we want people to provide this if they can. And then, in F it says timely notice and shows good cause. They're never separated. So I think, the purpose of this change is to provide more notice, not to provide less notice or to confuse anyone. I think the email that will go out will be very clear, that will say you must provide both of these things. So I think that everyone who's currently on the commission should be well versed in this, and next January with the new commission, I think we can point this out again and just make sure that everyone understands it. I don't think that there's really too much concern that I have about whether this is actually, gonna actually confuse people. But that said, if anyone has a concern, I'm happy to go into detail and discuss this policy and procedure ad nauseum with anyone offline. Happy to do that. So that's my comment here.
Thank you. Seeing no other, we have a motion on the table, correct? Yeah, seeing no other. Oh, Seeing no other discussion, we will ask the clerk to call the roll on the motion to accept the proposed rule changes.
Hello, everyone. I'll start again with Commissioner May,
Yes, thank you, Matthew.
Commissioner Cobia,
Yes.
Commissioner Rance,
Yes.
Commissioner Herkman,
Yes.
Commissioner Fine,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Swift,
Yes.
Commissioner Berquist,
Yes.
Commissioner Lord,
Yes.
Commissioner Farrar,
Yes.
Commissioner Devenish. I believe that was a yes.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Stigliani,
Yes.
Commissioner Folk,
Yes.
and Commissioner Shoemake.
Yes.
Okay, that is 14 yeses.
Thank you. That motion has passed, and I will direct the clerk to file and receive that report. Item 9 on the agenda is an update from Commissioner Stigliani on the Minneapolis Police Department lethal weapon update. Thank you, Commissioner Stigliani.
Thank you, Chair May. Yeah, we've received some data finally from the police department. I wish to thank Kayla very strongly for all of her support with that. So what we received thus far are all the changes in police manuals and training since 2016. And so we're going through that. From that, we've been able to derive the types of munitions that are issued, the types of behaviors that the police are trained in. We have received in a separate communication kind of how often someone is training. We have not as of yet gotten to engage with anybody in the police officers side of the how they execute training. So we are hopefully getting in contact with the range master to go through that. What we are missing and what's frustrating is that the procurement information and how many rounds used and when they were used and all sorts of, how do they track these types of engagements is still missing on our part. And for those who've seen recently, there was a KSTP article where apparently KSTP is able to obtain numbers of rounds discharged, at least during the George Floyd riots. So again, the information is getting out, but has not yet been delivered to us. So I'm a little frustrated by that, but the good news is that we are finally making some progress, and hopefully, as more of this information gets sent out to the public, there'll be less of an issue releasing it to the Civil Rights Commission. That's essentially where we are. There's a lot of information here to go through. Unfortunately, we're missing kind of the key critical elements of what's been used, what's been reordered. I mean, the KSTP article disclosed, several thousand rounds, I believe, that were discharged. At least 4,000 rubber bullets were fired during the riots. And so what's coming to bear is that we're looking at probably a very large number of these things being used across the last couple of years here. The training is pretty clear that they're not supposed to shoot people in the face or shoot people in the upper body. I think we're finding more and more of that. I have outreach to the University of Minnesota, have not had a response from them yet as to their medical studies to bring that into this and maybe bring them in as a speaking event. But essentially that's where we are, and I'd like to hear any discussion, any suggestions from the commission as a whole. Anything else I should be pushing, any buttons, other buttons I should be pushing with respect to this. I do have as a backup a significant number of high-res photos of the police in action, which I'm trying not to use simply because it's much more provocative than the actual numbers of what they've been using to do. So, I'd rather have hard numbers. Go ahead. We're not.
So this is Commissioner Farrer. I do have one other button that I would think you might want to try and push. I understand from what has been released in the newspapers that the police are required to file some kind of report whenever they discharge one of these non-lethal weapons, and that last year, or over the last 12, 18 months, at least 6 people were permanently maimed and lost an eye as the result of the police discharge of these weapons, but not a single report has actually been filed. So one button that would seem we should try and address is that if their internal requirements are that they must file a report, but they are not filing reports, what action is taken or what consequences are there? I mean, reporting or training is useless if there's no accountability. And if they are acting in contravention of what they're supposed to do, and people are literally losing an eye as a result, but no one is reporting anything, that seems like a fundamental flaw that should be addressed and fixed in the system. And I'm sure, like, we all agree with that, but I don't know if this has been going on for a long time. What are we supposed to do? Or what is anyone doing about police who do what they like without any consequences and not filing reports?
And I think that's step 2 or 3 here, because I mean, first of all, we have to establish the basis of, you know, how many rounds are being fired. Supposedly, the police are supposed to fire 5 training rounds a year, so that they're in that. You know, that's what the police department has exposed to us. And you know, there is fair amount of evidence that nothing's happened. You know, that they're using the munitions inappropriately. And I'm not sure where to go with that. Kayla, maybe you have some suggestions on that. But the whole point here is that I'm trying to make this as neutral a data analysis as we can without, you know, pointing out that, you know, they're not doing even what their policy says. So I'd like to get the data in hand first before we get out, you know, to make this more fundamentally problematic for the police before the data comes out. If that's
perhaps what I'm suggesting, without it being confrontational, is that included in the report maybe should be something like civilian injuries that have been recorded and are unexplained by a police report. I mean, that's a neutral statement of fact. And we know that people are getting maimed and injured horrifically, but we're not reporting that anywhere or doing it. So I just think that might be a button to push and include it in a neutral fashion somehow.
Yeah, I've been pulling the lawsuits as they come up, and trying to manage what's those. In the court filings, you know, the city attorney has suggested that the scene is too chaotic to track who fired what at whom. But there are 12 lawsuits against the Minneapolis Police and State Patrol that I'm working through at this point. And they've only identified 3 officers thus far.
If they've given away over $50 million in damages in the last 12 months, and that number is astonishing, if they can give away over $50 million and say the scene is too chaotic for reporting, why bother having a requirement to report?
Indeed.
Sorry.
Commissioner Stignani, this is Kayla. I can weigh in just a tad on the accountability question. So if there's a violation of policy, so like for instance, if by policy an officer should be filing a report or should be using a weapon in a different way than how they did, that is something that the Office of Police Conduct Review can investigate.
Okay.
So that does happen within our office on the civilian side.
Okay, and is, you know, I'd rather get the thing done before we, you know, go down any of those rabbit holes. So, so again, we're halfway into this now. I really hope that they can get, you know, now that the court cases seem to be disclosing more evidence every day, that this will somehow become less problematic to provide it to the city function going forward. So that's where I'm at. And once that all comes together, then I hopefully can bring all the rest of our subcommittees into action for this. That's all I got.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Commissioner Stignani. Well, I will ask the clerk to receive and file that report. And we'll move, the next order of business is the acceptance of public comments. So I will open the floor and invite comments from the community. Each speaker will be allowed to speak for 2 minutes. So with that, are there any community members on the line who wish to address the commission? I will remind you to unmute. You would press *6.
I don't see anyone logged in.
Perfect. I knew there was a phone number earlier, but with that, seeing none, we will begin the final item on our agenda, and that is the reports from our standing committees and task forces. And so we will begin with the Community Engagement and Research Subcommittee.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. The unfinished business, the DOJ discussion that we had at the beginning, when you said the last item on our agenda now is the reports, where does that DOJ discussion go? Is that in unfinished business or is that going somewhere else?
Okay, my apologies. We were amending to add that under the unfinished business. I don't, we can, yep, my comment that I made prior to the meeting was that we didn't, we had not discussed this at the executive meeting to ways to move forward. So are you still wanting that update on the agenda?
I think at the beginning when we were discussing the agenda, Commissioner Berquist and some other members said this will be a good item to discuss in general. Perfect. Because if it hasn't been addressed by the executive committee yet, we should maybe talk about what we do want to have done.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner, for, I was reading from my script, so I did say last, but we will add that DOJ. So we'll have item 10 then, if that's okay.
Sure. And
we'll add that as the discussion regarding the DOJ resolution that was brought upon the commission by Commissioner Farrar. So Commissioner Farrar, you have the floor.
Well, what I noticed, I went back and had a look at my notes from the meeting back in May. And in that May meeting, there was a commission that there was a motion that was moved by Commissioner Rance and that was seconded by Commissioner Devenish, and that passed 17-0. And that motion was that we make some formal contact with the US Department of Justice involved in the consent decree that is going on in our city, and we invite a member of the US Justice Department who's involved in that consent decree to present at our upcoming meeting in June, it said back in May. That was the actual motion, and the discussion was around making formal contact with the DOJ and being able to have formal representation at the investigation they were doing as a commission. And I think we've kind of lost sight of the fact that having contact with the department as individual commissioners is not the same as having a seat at the table as the Civil Rights Commission, which was what we wanted to do originally. That's for context, so we're kind of all on the same page.
I have a question for Commissioner Farrar, and I see Janelle Shoemake's hand up, and I apologize. I don't want to speak out of turn. But my question is, has Commissioner Farrar reached out to the DOJ and, what feedback he may have received as a equal civil rights commissioner that has equal opportunity to speak and try to have them maybe come present or share any ideas and feedback. So I leave that to Commissioner Farrar.
That is an excellent question. I am not on the executive committee. You are. I think
no,
that should
I'm not, sir.
Directed to the executive committee.
I'm not, sir. But we all civil rights commissioners, and we all can. I'm not on the executive team because I'm not on the thing, but yet I'm taking action as a member. The African American Family Preservation, Stop the Gun Violence. I'm not on the executive team. However, I take the time to, if I see something in the community that needs to be addressed, to try to address it. And you pointed out twice that this is something that is important to you. So it is okay as a member to express your concern within your subcommittee, write a letter and pass it and try to take action. We are all one body, and we can, if you see something that needs to be addressed, we all can help each other and to address those issues. And it's not just up to one member, it's up to everyone on this commission. So
I will
I just
speak for
wanted to
Senator
point
Chair.
that
I'm
out.
not a member of the executive committee. The executive committee said this would take this up. I would expect them to do what they said they were going to do. I don't see that I volunteered to do it. I could, but the executive committee said they would, and that was why I asked for reports twice.
Well, absolutely. So Commissioner Farrar, as I stated in the beginning of the meeting, we did not have a chance to do that, but I would love for you to be involved in that in whichever way makes sense. And so if that's something that we can have your subcommittee and meet together and make a plan for something actionable that way. I know that we did say that, but it does sound like something that you are passionate about, and I'd love for you to be involved.
I don't think that the contract and workforce compliance subcommittee is the relevant place for this to happen.
So I have a question regarding that, because I've had some concern regarding where the right place for something to be is, and I don't think that's not like the community engagement and research we have 3 subcommittees, and so where things belong, like I would be so happy for that, because your subcommittee to still to be able to move forward with working on this, as we are a commission of 3 subcommittees, and we do have limited work that each subcommittee can engage in. I'm just thinking of the community engagement and research subcommittee is engaged in so much work, and so I'm wondering if it makes sense to land there. But I mean, otherwise maybe we can figure out a way. Commissioner Farrar, like I said, I'd love for you to be involved in this. So let me know what makes sense for you. But I do see Commissioner Shoemake's hand up, and I would love to hear from Commissioner Shoemake.
Thank you, Chair Collis. One thing I just wanted to say was that the Justice Department would already have invited us to the table if they wanted us to be a part of it. So they know that we exist. It's not like we can't be found, and we would have already certainly gotten an invitation if they wanted our direct input. They can totally do that, and they would if they wanted to. So I would say I think it would be good for us to move forward and make a statement contributing to the investigation, or however you want to move forward with it. I think it's great to speak out on this, but I just don't think realistically that the justice, if they wanted our input, they would definitely reach out to us. So I don't know how difficult it would be to really get an audience. That's all.
Commissioner Stignani and then Commissioner Rance.
Okay, I did post into the chat a image of a letter about the DOJ, and I will, Kayla has clarified that this is not from the DOJ, but it does have DOJ contact details at the bottom. Anyone who's actively involved in the investigation around the consent order would not be available just because of investigation. So, but they do have a community outreach section, which is, where that email goes to the DOJ. So I would urge us to write to that. I mean, I do think that, frankly, maybe they don't even know we exist in some form or another as well. So we should at least raise our hands, in an email and say, hey, we'd love to be engaged with you at a community level, because we represent, an aspect of the community. So I think that would go a long way, at least to getting, a response out of them as well. That's all I have.
Commissioner Rance.
Thank you, Chair May. I don't understand what I don't know if I'm sensing resistance, but I don't see why the motion that I made earlier this year would need to now go to a committee. Wouldn't it be just as simple as you as our chair sending an email to the Justice Department inviting them to attend our meeting? And if so, couldn't we, in the next 5 to 7 minutes, craft an email that you could send out to them first thing in the morning, inviting them to our next meeting?
Yeah, I could send them an email right now. I would
All
love
right.
to work on it with each and every one of you.
All right, so let's get to it. Dear U.S. Justice Department, we, the Minneapolis Commission on Civil Rights, cordially invite you to our next meeting.
Commissioner Rance, are you writing? So are you just, you're speaking?
No, but I'm saying,
Make
like,
sure I'm checking what conversation we're having.
it's I guess I'm saying it's just that it's just that simple.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to know, as our chair, is there some reservation about sending out that invitation?
There is no reservation about that at all, honestly. We have our executive meetings and it has not been brought up. I know that it was previously brought up and that is my fault for not keeping track of Commissioner Farrar's request for that. But I would love to be able to do this with each and every one of you, like I said. There's no resistance. It's just a matter of trying to keep track of the things that we're working on. And maybe I could have done a better job of having Commissioner Farrar kind of get some things started as far as, you know, what kind of asks we might have for things. But if we want to simply just invite them to our next meeting, and I think I remember a conversation, and I'm not exactly sure, but I do remember there being like a contact that one of our commissioners potentially had with the DOJ. So if that is the case, would love to reiterate that point. If not, otherwise I can send an email to the DOJ. Who in the DOJ do we think it makes sense to send to? I can search around for an email, but I do remember there being some sort of connection that maybe one of our commissioners had. So if there's any discussion around that, that'd be great. Otherwise, we can find that information. But no.
I've just pushed the email into the chat. So there's the contact email in the chat.
I remember us having a conversation and we were going to reach out, but I do see that it hasn't happened. So we'll make sure that happens right now by tomorrow morning.
Okay.
This is Kayla from the department. Can I just toss one idea out in regards to this? And that just is that so this might be something to further discuss in the executive committee only for agenda and timing considerations, because I know that we wanted to have the Urban Institute come and present next meeting. So just something to consider.
Yeah, I will be asking them to present at a meeting. I'm not going to say the September meeting. We'll make a plan for that because we do have somebody presenting at our September meeting. Absolutely. Thank you, Kayla.
And this is Commissioner Devenish. I want to apologize if my comment was viewed as resistant. That wasn't my point. However, my point was to let commissioners know that their voice is equally as important, and we can all help each other by, if we see something that is important or that someone forgets, because we all work, we have families, we go to school, we have so much on our plate. So if we forget to do something to, I appreciate David Farrar's bringing it up to the chair, but like if we could work together to maybe send her an email saying, I put together this email, please review it. So it's just my opinion that we can work together to help each other out.
Thank you. Do we have any other discussion? I see a hand up, one more hand up. Commissioner Lord.
Oh, this is Cindy. It seems like we probably just want to have like an objective for why we want to invite them and what we're hoping to get out of it. So I'm not recalling what Commissioner Rance had originally proposed. It seems, one thing that occurs to me is trying to understand how we can potentially leverage resources that they might have available, or work with them in order to amplify our impact on the community. So I'll just throw that out as a potential objective, but I'm sure there are probably others as well, or better ones.
This is Commissioner Schumake. I appreciate that thought, Commissioner Lord, because in thinking about all this, like, what if we invite them to a meeting? What, like, what would we say to them if they came? Like, do we have a concise, like, a message that we want to deliver and say, this is our stance on the Minneapolis Police Department? You know, if it needs to be relevant to the investigation. And so what exactly do we have a unified feeling or stance on what we would want to say?
This is Commissioner Rance. This could be as simple as saying, Dear Justice Department, if you could please explain what will take place in your investigation and how can the MCCR lend assistance to your process. And then contingent upon what they say, then we as a commission go back, discuss, make an assessment, and see how we can assist, whether it's providing research or data or past experiences or contacts, etc., so that ultimately justice can be served. I mean, I don't think it requires any more complexity than that.
My recollection from my notes at the time is that is almost exactly what Commissioner Rance said when he proposed this motion originally, and when the person seconded it and we had discussion around it. And all of that seems to me to be the reason why we would invite them, because we have a voice about civil rights in our city, and we would like to be involved in whatever way we can to move forward the investigation that they're doing.
Exactly.
This is Commissioner Stignani. I just posted in the chat a recent statement by the head of the Civil Division of the Department of Justice, in which she talks about a couple things that they've already accomplished in Minneapolis. So what we may wish to engage with is, what's left, what can we help with, or how can we help achieve their goals in Minneapolis. So seven paragraphs up in the bottom of the statement deals with what they've been doing in Minneapolis.
I like that.
Thank you, Commissioner Stignani. So with that, I'm writing an email, sending it to the email that Commissioner Stignani just posted in the chat. With that, is there anything else? And I will ask the clerk to file and receive that report, and we will then move to the final item on our agenda, which is the reports from the standing committees and task forces. We have Community Engagement and Research Subcommittee first. Do we have a representative from that committee? Maybe Commissioner Folk, because Commissioner Gold is not with us this evening.
Yes. I can probably, hopefully, if Commissioner Devenish is also on, if we can tag team this together, just because I wasn't aware I was going to have to give a report out. So just from what I understand, if Commissioner Devenish wants to add on to any of the work that she's been doing with the Stop the Gun Violence Proclamation Act, I know that was something our subcommittee was working on. And then I believe the only other update we had was just from our last commission meeting, where we did approve the new kind of recommendations that we had brought forward for the awards, just to clarify the nomination process, and it seems like that got passed. And so if there were any updates on the specific awards that we had already voted on, Commissioner Devenish, feel free to kind of give an update on your end if there's anything you want to give an update on.
Yes, we continue to work with the city. So Kayla has been a great help in terms of next steps, ordering the frames, and so far. So I think we're on track for that. Kayla, is there any way you could give us an update on where we're at in that process?
Sure, yeah. So the last piece of information I had was that Diana was working with you all to order those things.
Sorry.
She's on vacation this week, and I did not ask her about that before she went, unfortunately, but I can ask her as soon as she's back.
Okay, thank you. And then as far as the Stop the Gun Violence, Kayla has also been very helpful in meeting with us quite a few times, quite a few emails, quite a few calls in terms of Stop the Gun Violence Act. So thank you, Ms. Kayla, for your wonderful help on that and ongoing help. So thank you.
My pleasure.
And I think I had a question. Oh, we got Ashley Gold's qualified immunity that she wants to create a resolution and hopefully get that passed. Also, I just had a question in terms of our money. I know we have some money set aside. Can some of that money be used to take out ads in like the Star and Tribune, Northside News, Camden News, and maybe list the award winners and a brief statement? If you know someone who deserves an award, please let us know by October, or also state how to become a civil rights commissioner. So that's just some of my thought of, can we use some of that money to use newspaper advertisements?
And is that a question to me, Cindy?
Yes, or anybody on the commission, whoever can answer that question.
So I'm happy to provide just a little bit of information. I will say that that is not a particular question that has come up before, so I'm not really sure if that's the type of thing commission allotted funds could be used for. So I can run that past Andrea, who is also out of town this week, but she will be back next week, and I can ask her her thoughts on that. And then additionally, I would just say that any funds spent, the commission as a whole would have to agree that that's where they wanted money spent. But I can report back once I hear back from her.
Okay. I don't know if it was you, Chair May, but the idea of having like an outing at a museum, I don't know what that looks like. Did you want to speak a little bit to that, or?
Yeah, the last Commissioner Gold and I and Commissioner Signani were, or Commissioner Rance, I think as well, we're waiting to hear back regarding a date to meet with the Science Museum. And so I don't know exactly where we're at on that. I know we had
I have
a few dates.
Yeah, I have a few new dates available for us. So do we want to get that out? I can share those either in the chat now, or I can, we can share those at the executive meeting afterwards.
Okay.
Okay, and then once we agree on a date, then we'd come back in and vote on it. Is that correct?
Yep, it's not really I don't think we have the brief to make this official or not. So I think it's a kind of somewhat extracurricular, if I remember Kayla's statements to this effect as well. So.
And the date that to clarify, the date that we're waiting for right now is a meeting with the Science Museum to kind of do some pre-planning and conversation.
Yes, that's correct.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, thank you. I think that's about it. Is Paul Herkman here today?
Yes, I
am. Do you have any updates, sir?
Nope, you all covered it. I am good and with you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Devenish and Commissioner Folk, for the update. Next, we have the Standards and Procedures Subcommittee.
Right, and I have nothing further to report on standards and procedures. Thanks.
Great, Commissioner Fine. And then, so we have up next, the Workforce and Contract Compliance Subcommittee. And I do see Commissioner Bergquist, your hand is up. Is that?
It was really, I didn't want to interrupt the earlier discussion on item 8 on the agenda, and I thought S&P's update would be an appropriate time to raise this question. And now that I know that Andrea Neff isn't on the call, it seems all the more appropriate since she's not here to keep us honest. Not that we'd be dishonest, but my understanding is to make this change, and I could be wrong about this, we need to submit it to the public and then have like a 30-day period of time or something like that. And I'm not sure whether that's the case, but maybe the executive committee can clarify that. And then depending on what clarification the executive committee gets, we may have to put it back on the agenda next time around so that we can officially finally make this change to Rule 601. So just a comment right now, since we don't have, at least as best I know, we don't have legal counsel to tell us whether what I'm remembering is actually correct.
Thank you, Commissioner Bergquist. Does anybody have, Commissioner Fine, I see you're unmuted.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but I will check with Andrea now about what the next procedure right away, and if we have to, we'll put it in next month's meeting, which we might.
Thank you. Commissioner Bergquist. Oh, there we go. Any other discussion on that item? Otherwise, we'll move to Commissioner Kobia and Commissioner Rance with Workforce and Contracts Compliance Subcommittee. Oh wait, no, that's the old. So we have Rance, right? That's our old chairs.
Rance and Stignani.
Yes, doesn't look right.
Yeah, that is correct. I was on vacation, and so I had Commissioner Stignani, fill in as vice chair for that meeting.
And so if you'd like, I'll just give my quick report out, then you can enhance that, Commissioner Rance, as you wish.
Sure.
Okay. So our last meeting, we basically got a data request for the minority women-owned business systems in the city of Minneapolis. One of the requests required, they tell us the fields that they actually track in this area, and to my understanding, they do not actually track in the prime contractor side any of the fields that one would expect for a minority in business owned. So as an action item, we do have a request. We're going to either a follow-up request to them to figure out where they actually get their data from if it's not in the primary PeopleSoft. So we will be having another meeting with the city to follow up on that, and we'll report out at the next meeting.
Excellent.
Thanks, Commissioner Stignani. Commissioner Rance, did you want to add anything?
Later on this week, I'll be talking to the president of the Minnesota Minority Contractors, and we'll be inviting them to a subcommittee meeting to learn a little bit more about their membership's experience and look for best practices in regards to contracting with the city of Minneapolis. So there'll be a report following that.
Thank you for that. Okay, so we will move to our vice chair update with Commissioner Shoemake.
Evening, everyone. I missed y'all this summer. I'm sorry I've been out for a little bit, but we've done really well in getting a lot of panels completed so far. For July, we are waiting for a decision on the case that Ashley Commissioner Gold, Commissioner Fine, and Commissioner Fee are on. So just a reminder to get that in if you haven't already. Maybe if you did get it in, I haven't gotten that update yet. And then I do need two attorney commissioners to volunteer today for case assignments that I need to reassign an attorney for 2 different cases. So if 2 can volunteer today, that would be great. I'll talk a little bit more and then let those of you think about if you want to volunteer or not. And then next up, we will have, I'll be sending out an email either later this week or early next week for just kind of planning out the review panels that we're going to have throughout the end of the year. So there's that. Kayla, we had talked about having just kind of a walkthrough, an example case. Have you made any progress on that? Is that still on the table?
It's still definitely something that we can do. And we have not developed anything at this point. I will say that we are pretty short-handed at the moment, but happy to work on that moving forward.
Can commissioners raise your hand in the meeting if you are interested in training, like a review panel training? I see one hand. 2. Okay, so for those, what I'll do is I'll send out an email, or for those of y'all who are really interested and would like to do this, send me an email and I can set up time for us to meet. Kayla, I'll make sure it can fit within your schedule and then we can walk through just the whole process. And so I would encourage any newer commissioners who haven't been too involved in panels yet to attend. It's just great to kind of have discussion, and every case I learn a lot more about the process and the law, and it's fun. I enjoy it, so I just encourage anyone to attend. I will send out an email for that, and then yeah, the case assignments for the rest of the month will come once I'll get a case list from Matthew later this week. And then that I'll send out, like I did earlier this year, I'll send out kind of a schedule of who's going to be working on cases which month. So if there are months that you absolutely could not work a case, please let me know. But we'll get those out pretty soon. Any questions or other comments from anyone? All right, I need 2 volunteers. Two attorney volunteers.
This is Commissioner Stignani. I'm not an attorney on the list here, but I'm an attorney. So.
Kayla, is that allowed?
I'm okay with that, especially if there aren't other volunteers.
Okay. So thank you, Commissioner Stignani. I will, Matthew and I will email you and get you everything that you need. Is there any other attorney volunteer? Just one more. We've been on like a really phenomenal roll, getting a ton of cases done. Let's keep it up. I'm gonna start calling names. Let's see. Commissioner Hartz, would you be available?
He is not here today.
Oh. How about, let me see if Commissioner Fine.
Oh, Commissioner Fine there. He has his hand up.
I'll do it.
Commissioner Fine, you are already assigned to one case in August. But I can put you on the July case with Commissioner Rance and Commissioner Bergquist. And then Commissioner Stignani, you will be on an August case. So we are good.
Hi, Janelle. Sorry. So for the August case that we were looking for an attorney on, Commissioner Stignani is already on that specific case, I believe.
That is right.
And yeah, and if we flip it, we could do that as well, and just put him on the July case.
Yeah,
But
I can.
That would also mean Commissioner Stignani would also have 2 cases this month.
I will. Commissioner Stignani will be on that case. The 1701142, and then I will put myself in for his seat.
Okay.
And just so you know, Bob, Commissioner Fine has his hand raised.
Commissioner Fine.
Oh, I'll lower it. Is it off?
Did you have something to add, Commissioner Fine?
No,
Okay.
no.
All right. That is the end
Just
of
for-
my.
Oh, just for clarity, sorry. So you want me to replace Commissioner Stignani on their original case with you and then move him to the other one?
Replace them with Commissioner Fee. I'll email you about it.
Oh, okay, no worries. Thanks.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Commissioner Schumake. We now have an update from myself, the chair. And so I will, so right now, just an update on a few things. So again, the racial equity impact analysis, the city's asked us that we work on this. And so one thing that Commissioner Devenish and I discussed was possibly putting together a roadmap or a process for our experience through the first REIA that was completed with our commission through the gun violence proclamation. So that REI was completed. And out of that, we were able to model what completion of that tool looks like, but also be able to use that as a guide for engaging with the council members for Minneapolis when we did our presentation last week. And so we did talk about what it would look like to create a roadmap of this is how you do the REIA in regards to when we are given the opportunity to present with city council, because it will be something that we'll be able to do in the future and something that is very new to us. And so that was a great experience. So we just kind of brainstormed around that, but I know there's a lot of newness regarding the REIA. And so again, if there's any questions from commissioners, if anyone wasn't able to attend that meeting with Cassidy, please reach out. Would love to discuss this more. In regards to reaching out as well, something that was brought to my attention was that we usually do a recap of things that have happened throughout the year in the commission. And so if there's anything that you would absolutely love to be highlighted, that work that's been done in the commission that you'd like to be highlighted, please email me and we can make sure we capture those things when that time does come. And then again, working on, and I mentioned this earlier, working on getting a meeting with the Office of Violence Prevention. They have a steering committee, and this was something I was really excited to be able to talk about in our meeting or in our presentation with City Council. But the fact that the Office of Violence Prevention had not met, didn't have an agenda or any meeting minutes since February 2020. And so really trying to light a fire under them with the work that they're doing. How can we encourage their office, their steering committee to keep working on violence prevention in our city, but also wondering how we can influence them to really target our gun violence task force proclamation and suggestions that we have and for what that would look like. And so again, Commissioner Gold, Commissioner Devenish, and I and Kayla have had a lot of conversation around that, and also did present that topic, but knowing that there's some work that the commission we still need to do on what this could look like. And so if there's any feedback regarding that, or if anyone has any feedback, please reach out on what a task force what makes sense to others, if there are any updates. Otherwise, one thing we've been looking at some of the work that's already happening here in Minneapolis, but also nationally, what do other task force targeting gun violence look like? With that steering committee not meeting since February 2020, with our gun violence increasing through the pandemic. And so it's critical that we make sure that our city's doing things around this. That, again, I did mention too that there was there's a violence prevention fund, and one thing that I find really interesting is that they are funding community agencies or organizations like A Mother's Love that Commissioner Devenish worked with regarding completing the proclamation that was signed. And so, seeing that they already have a connection with, providing funds and things, how do we get a task force to really tackle this gun violence issue that our city of Minneapolis is having? And yeah, I'll pass it over to Kayla with the department.
Thanks very much, Commissioner May, Chair May. So just a very brief update on our end. I did really enjoy working with the commissioners on that presentation for City Council. So thank you for all your work on that, and looking forward to continue to engage with getting those meetings set up, especially with the internal city stakeholders. I did want to announce, I know I've brought this up a couple of times and there's been some interest, and we finally have a date for the training for kind of what it looks like to file a complaint with our division in the Civil Rights Department. So this training will be aimed at providing commissioners just with some familiarity as to what are the different avenues to file a complaint, what does the actual form look like that members of the public are asked to fill out if they would like to file a complaint with the Complaint Investigations Division. Again, that would be discrimination-based issues that they're experiencing within the city of Minneapolis. And so that is scheduled for September 10th. It's a Friday, from 12 to 1. So we scheduled that over a lunch hour with the hope that folks would have the most amount of availability during that time of the day. If I will say, it is subject to change. If you're really interested in participating and this date for sure doesn't work for you, feel free to send me an email. If I get multiple of those emails, we can maybe adjust that date. We do want as many people to participate as possible. So keep me posted about that. But otherwise, me and my staff will be working on putting that training together, and then we'll be available for all your questions, of course, as well. Otherwise, we appreciate the continued work on the review panels. If you have questions about kind of where you are in the process for a panel, I know there's lots of emails with the conflict of interest forms that go out and the case file links that go out. If you ever have questions about those, you can always reach out to Matthew for clarification of, did I miss an email? Is it somewhere that I didn't see? We're happy to kind of help work through any of those complications that anyone might be experiencing. And other than that, I will say our staff right now are very focused on casework, as we are often, but our EEOC deadline, we have a contract with the EEOC to complete a certain number of employment discrimination related cases. And so that's been our main focus right now, is making sure that we have the sufficient number of cases complete. With that, my door is always open. Feel free to send me an email, give me a call if you have questions or concerns or would like to connect. Thanks.
Thank you, Kayla. So with that, we've concluded all items on our agenda for this meeting. I'll see everyone back here next month for the September 2021 regular meeting. Seeing no further business to come before us, and without objection, I will declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay.
Are folks interested in sticking around for an executive check-in?
Sure.
Yep.
Sure.
I'm not saying that we need to do that. I was just asking so that I know if I need to stay on. It's
Yep.
totally up to you all.
I think someone had some business they had mentioned that
Sure.
wanted to discuss.
We should always discuss absences right after.
Yeah.
Given this change.
Mhm.
Thank you, Jeff. That is true.